Dr. Wendy Osefo had probably a pretty amazing, unproblematic season, and I love that for her. But Karen Huger intentionally not thanking Wendy just reminded all of us, even if you were a fan of Karen, of exactly who Karen Huger really is: delusional.
Just when it seemed like everyone was rallying around Karen, Wendy dropped a bombshell. She claimed that Karen's confession wasn't as genuine as it seemed. According to Wendy, Karen had been spinning stories for sympathy, manipulating the narrative to protect her image. The room went silent as Wendy laid out her evidence, pointing out inconsistencies in Karen's past statements. The other housewives were visibly shocked, some even gasping at the boldness of Wendy's accusations. Karen's face showed a mix of hurt and anger as she tried to defend herself, but Wendy didn't back down. The tension was thick, and the other housewives were left questioning who to believe. Was Karen truly vulnerable, or was Wendy exposing a hidden truth? The reunion is far from over, and it's clear this confrontation will have lasting repercussions. Karen's face froze for a moment, clearly caught off guard. She stammered, trying to find the right words, but Wendy's gaze remained locked on her, unyielding. The tension was palpable, and you could hear a pin drop. The other housewives were on the edge of their seats, eyes darting between Wendy and Karen. They were just as curious, clearly wondering if there was more to Karen's story than she had let on. Karen finally responded, her voice shaking slightly as she insisted her confession was real, that she had been vulnerable and honest. But Wendy wasn't having it. She followed up with pointed questions, bringing up past incidents that didn't add up, making Karen look increasingly defensive. The cracks in Karen's story began to show, and the other housewives started murmuring, clearly shaken by Wendy's boldness. Was Wendy truly exposing a lie, or was she being too harsh? Either way, this confrontation was going to be the talk of the season. Wendy exposed a pattern that no one saw coming. She claimed that Karen had a history of using emotional moments to deflect attention from her own controversies. According to Wendy, every time Karen was cornered or faced backlash, she would reveal something deeply personal, shifting the narrative and gaining sympathy from the group. Wendy backed up her claims by pointing out specific instances from past seasons, connecting the dots in a way that was hard to ignore. She referenced moments when Karen's emotional confessions conveniently aligned with rumors about her marriage, financial issues, and even conflicts with other housewives. The room was stunned. Even Andy Cohen was speechless, his usual witty remarks nowhere to be found. Karen looked visibly shaken, her confident demeanor cracking under the pressure. She tried to defend herself, insisting her struggles were real, but Wendy's theory had planted a seed of doubt in everyone's mind. The other housewives started whispering among themselves, clearly reevaluating Karen's past actions. Was Karen truly the vulnerable woman she portrayed, or was she a master manipulator? The reunion had turned into a courtroom, with Wendy as the prosecutor and Karen on the stand. This revelation changed everything, and the fallout was just beginning. Wendy's skepticism stemmed from more than just a gut feeling. She noticed inconsistencies in Karen's story, details that didn't quite add up. For starters, Karen's timeline of events seemed muddled. She mentioned struggles that allegedly happened during a time when she was publicly portraying a different narrative. Wendy recalled social media posts and interviews where Karen appeared carefree and thriving, contradicting the emotional turmoil she claimed to be experiencing. Wendy also pointed out how Karen strategically shared her struggles just as rumors about her finances were beginning to surface. To Wendy, it seemed too convenient, almost as if Karen was trying to get ahead of the narrative before anyone could question her. And then there was Karen's demeanor. Wendy observed that Karen was more composed than someone who was supposedly revealing such deep personal pain. It felt rehearsed to her, like Karen had anticipated the questions and crafted her answers to maintain control over the situation. This was why Wendy stayed silent while the others rushed to console Karen. She was piecing together the puzzle, trying to figure out if Karen was genuinely vulnerable or playing on their emotions to save face. Karen's expression changed, and her confidence wavered for the first time. For a split second, it looked like she had been caught off guard. But Karen is no rookie when it comes to handling pressure, and she quickly tried to regain control of the conversation. She denied any dishonesty, insisting that her struggles were real and that she had nothing to hide. With a steady voice, she defended herself, claiming that her emotional confession was genuine and not a tactic to deflect from any rumors or controversies. Karen maintained that she was simply being vulnerable, sharing her truth with the group. But despite her firm denial, the doubt planted by Wendy's bold accusations lingered in the room, leaving everyone questioning what to believe. But Wendy wasn't letting this go. She pressed further, pointing out inconsistencies in Karen's past statements. She reminded everyone that Karen had a history of selectively revealing information when it suited her, carefully crafting a version of events that protected her image. Wendy didn't hold back, boldly suggesting that Karen was doing it again, playing the victim to divert attention from something bigger. This wasn't just a casual call-out. Wendy was accusing Karen of manipulating the narrative, of using her emotional confession as a shield to avoid scrutiny. The atmosphere grew tense as Wendy's words hung in the air, leaving everyone to question whether Karen was truly being vulnerable or masterfully controlling the conversation. Wendy had done her research. She brought up specific past moments where Karen's stories didn't add up, times when Karen denied rumors only for the truth to come out later. Wendy questioned Karen's motives, implying that her emotional confession wasn't as genuine as it seemed. With each pointed question, Wendy's argument grew stronger, and the cracks in Karen's narrative became more apparent. The more Wendy spoke, the more the housewives began to shift in their seats. Some looked like they were starting to doubt Karen's story, their supportive expressions fading into uncertainty. Others seemed hesitant to pick a side, their loyalty to Karen clashing with the compelling evidence Wendy was presenting. The room was divided, and the tension was palpable as Wendy continued her interrogation, determined to uncover the truth. Karen, of course, wasn't going down without a fight. She fired back, calling Wendy's accusations unfair and insisting that she had nothing to prove. With unwavering confidence, Karen defended herself, accusing Wendy of stirring up drama just for the sake of it and trying to paint her as the villain. But Wendy stayed composed, refusing to let Karen deflect the conversation. She stood her ground, her piercing questions cutting through Karen's defenses. Wendy was determined to get to the bottom of things, convinced that Karen was hiding something. But what exactly did Wendy uncover, and why is she so certain that Karen's confession isn't as genuine as it seems? Let's break it all down and find out what's really going on. This is where things took a turn no one expected. Wendy didn't just question Karen's story, she came prepared with receipts. The tension in the room was already thick, but when Wendy pulled out her evidence, the mood shifted completely. She didn't hesitate, confronting Karen with a calculated question that hit hard. "You've been through how many public crises, Karen?" Wendy locked eyes with the grande dame, her gaze unyielding. "And every single time, you find a way to turn yourself into the victim. Why should we believe you now?" Her words hung in the air, heavy with accusation, as the room fell silent. The housewives looked on in shock, realizing that Wendy hadn't just come to question Karen, she had come to expose her. Her words cut deep. The other housewives sat in stunned silence, their eyes darting between Wendy and Karen. Karen, who was usually quick with a comeback, seemed momentarily at a loss. She opened her mouth, then shut it again, as if trying to figure out the best way to respond. But Wendy wasn't giving her that time. She laid it all out, pointing to past situations where Karen had managed to dodge accountability. Whether it was the questions about her marriage, the rumors about her finances, or past allegations that had mysteriously disappeared, Wendy painted a picture of someone who always found a way to rewrite history in her favor. With every example, Wendy's argument grew stronger, leaving Karen struggling to defend herself against the mounting evidence. The room was tense, and for the first time, Karen's carefully crafted image seemed to be cracking under the weight of Wendy's revelations. Wendy continued, her tone unwavering. "Let's talk about patterns, Karen. Every time things start to get messy, you come up with some new crisis that makes you look like the victim. And it works because we let it work." Her words were sharp, calculated, and impossible to ignore. Karen managed to snap out of her shock, her eyes flashing with defiance. "I don't owe you an explanation for my personal struggles," she shot back. "You don't get to decide what's real and what's not." Her voice was firm, but there was an edge of defensiveness that didn't go unnoticed. But Wendy wasn't done. She leaned forward, her posture intent, lowering her voice just enough to make everyone lean in. "So you're saying this breakdown wasn't just another deflection?" The question hung in the air, heavy with implication. It wasn't just about this moment, it was about every time Karen had escaped scrutiny by playing the victim. Wendy's accusation was bold, relentless, and it was clear she was demanding answers. And that's when the real bombshell dropped. Wendy claimed that Karen's emotional confession, the one that had moved so many people, wasn't as spontaneous as it seemed. According to Wendy, it was a calculated move designed to shift attention away from something much bigger. Her words sent shockwaves through the room, leaving everyone on edge. What exactly was Karen trying to hide? Wendy wasn't spilling all the details just yet, but she made it clear that there was something brewing behind the scenes, something Karen didn't want anyone looking too closely at. The tension was palpable, and the other housewives exchanged uneasy glances, realizing that this was far from over. Wendy didn't hold back. She looked directly at Karen and said, "I know you, Karen, and I know when you're playing a game." The accusations were brutal, each word hitting harder than the last. Wendy hinted at serious financial troubles that Karen had been keeping under wraps. She suggested that Karen's loyalty, whether in her friendships or even her marriage, wasn't as solid as she wanted people to believe. And then came the biggest shock of all. Wendy's voice was steady, her gaze unwavering as she delivered the final blow. "Karen, you're not the victim here. You're the puppet master. And I think it's time everyone sees the truth." The room fell silent, the tension so thick you could cut it with a knife. The other housewives sat in stunned disbelief, their eyes darting between Wendy and Karen, trying to process the explosive revelation. Karen's face went pale, her confidence visibly shaken for the first time. She opened her mouth to respond, but seemed at a loss for words. Wendy had turned the entire narrative on its head, and now nothing would ever be the same. The room was dead silent. The other housewives weren't just watching drama unfold, they were realizing that this might be a turning point. Had Wendy just exposed the biggest scandal of the season? Karen's face was unreadable, her usual composure cracking ever so slightly. She sat motionless, her eyes fixed on Wendy, trying to process the bombshell that had just been dropped. But one thing was clear, the Grande Dame's carefully built image had just taken a major hit. Everything she had crafted, her reputation, her story, her role within the group, was now under scrutiny. And as the weight of Wendy's words hung heavy in the air, it was obvious that nothing would ever be the same. Karen wasn't about to let Wendy tear her down without a fight. The moment Wendy accused her of manipulating the narrative, something in Karen snapped. The cool, composed Grande Dame was gone, replaced by someone ready to defend herself at all costs. Karen shot back, her voice cutting through the tense silence. "You want so badly to make me the villain, but guess what? I'm still standing and you will never take me down." The energy in the room shifted instantly. The other housewives, who had been silent spectators until now, started reacting, some nodding in agreement with Karen, while others exchanged skeptical glances. The lines were being drawn, and it was clear that the drama was far from over.
Reactions to the verdict, Karen's DUI verdict.
Okay, well, you know, it's really sad. At the end of the day, I want what's best for her, and I know that watching that video was not only terrible for us watching it, I'm sure it was terrible for her as well.
That's right.
So I feel for her.
Yeah. Kiki, did you see the videos?
I did. I was horrified at everything.
Yeah.
I was horrified at everything. I've always loved the Grand Dame.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh no.
Yeah.
It's just speechless, and I'm just, want everybody to be safe.
Right.
Karen's expression changed, and her confidence wavered for the first time. For a split second, it looked like she had been caught off guard. But Karen is no rookie when it comes to handling pressure, and she quickly tried to regain control of the conversation. She denied any dishonesty, insisting that her struggles were real and that she had nothing to hide. With a steady voice, she defended herself, claiming that her emotional confession was genuine and not a tactic to deflect from any rumors or controversies. Karen maintained that she was simply being vulnerable, sharing her truth with the group. But despite her firm denial, the doubt planted by Wendy's bold accusations lingered in the room, leaving everyone questioning what to believe. But Wendy wasn't letting this go. She pressed further, pointing out inconsistencies in Karen's past statements. She reminded everyone that Karen had a history of selectively revealing information when it suited her, carefully crafting a version of events that protected her image. Wendy didn't hold back, boldly suggesting that Karen was doing it again, playing the victim to divert attention from something bigger. This wasn't just a casual call-out. Wendy was accusing Karen of manipulating the narrative, of using her emotional confession as a shield to avoid scrutiny. The atmosphere grew tense as Wendy's words hung in the air, leaving everyone to question whether Karen was truly being vulnerable or masterfully controlling the conversation. Wendy had done her research. She brought up specific past moments where Karen's stories didn't add up, times when Karen denied rumors only for the truth to come out later. Wendy questioned Karen's motives, implying that her emotional confession wasn't as genuine as it seemed. With each pointed question, Wendy's argument grew stronger and the cracks in Karen's narrative became more apparent.